Hi, I'm Dan. Thanks for checking in on Dimgaard. So there were a couple of things that happened this week, but the one that I want to focus on isn't really uh, inherent to Dimgaard. It does affect Dimgaard. It affects all of 5th edition, and it is another one of those important elements that I haven't seen really referenced anywhere else. So there are lots of things that I really like about 5th edition. I think it's probably my favorite edition. The only one that comes close is 3.5. And I like so much about what they did right. They completely changed the approach to the game. It's much more of a collaborative story building experience built into the game, right? Like that is by design and really enforced within 5th edition. And one of the things they did, kind of as part of that, was they completely shifted the focus to be very much on so that character development is very much centered around the character classes. And if you look at previous editions, character development was very it integrated magic items much more, right? Like the collection of magic items that a PC accumulated over the course of their adventuring was much more of a defining element in the actual character itself than it is in 5th edition. 5th edition, you're going to have some magic items, but they do not define your character. Now, when you get up into the higher levels, there is some expectation. Things like Staff of Power or Holy Defender are going to be things that really do define your character. But for the most part, that they enhance your abilities to some extent, but they really are leveraging your character class traits, which is the core of character development. However, it players and DMs, because DMs are players, we like magic items. That's just like magic items are interesting, right? They are. They're just an interesting part of the game, and so we're not going to eschew magic items totally, but we need to understand magic items' relationship to the game in 5th edition. There is built into the entire game, into the CR system and into the encounter building process, is a premise that PCs will have very few magic items. So if you look at like the resistances, if a creature is a CR4 or less, and they have resistance to non-magical weapons, that doubles their effective hit points. Doubles them. So, and a CR4 creature is expected to be in the mix up until like 10th level, right? So that means that built into the monster design, the CR system, the encounter building, is the presupposition that up until 10th level, there are going to be at least some PCs who are having trouble dealing damage to a creature because they don't have magic weapons. In reality, I find that is never the case, right? That the reality of 5th edition play is I don't know any character who is relying upon weapon attacks who doesn't have a magic weapon by the time they are 4th level, 3rd level, something like that. And this includes like the widest campaigns played, like Adventure League. If you are, a fighter or a rogue, you're going to have a magic weapon. Now, it may be a common weapon, maybe a moon touch sword or something like that, but you're going to have it. It's available to you by the time you are 3rd or 4th level. You're not running around as a rogue at 10th level saying, "Oh man, if I could only get a magic rapier," right? That just doesn't happen. So what that falls then on is the DM. The DM has got to adjust things. Now, there are ways that you can adjust that. You can go ahead and eliminate those resistances and double those creatures' hit points yeah, who cares? You know that this elemental has resistance to, or this undead has resistance to non-magical weapons. We're just going to get rid of that because everybody has magic weapons and we'll double their hit points. That can seem kind of over the top, or you can change the resistances where it's like, yeah, it's just generally resistant, like barbarians are, where it doesn't matter whether it's magic or not. Boom. Swarms are that way. Swarms have resistance to weapons. It doesn't matter if it's magic or not. Players may not like that, either of those options, right? Both of those options are problematic. So then you're left with, okay, I guess we're just going to leave out those creatures from the mix. We'll find other challenges for PCs in my game, and that seems unfortunate to me, but that is probably the best option for DMs. Is once you get to the point where everybody has a magic weapon, just avoid those creatures that have resistance except for magical weapons in your encounter mix. I know it's unfortunate, right? But that's just the way that 5th edition plays in reality. The other thing that comes up, and this is what actually sparked my consideration of it, is when you are developing characters at higher than first level. So they're not going to, because if you have the full campaign, the DM can control the magic item access. But if you're saying, well, we're going to develop, we're going to do a one shot and we're going to bring in 8th level characters, right? Well, you're going to have some design criteria on that. Like, well, are we going to allow multi-classing? Are we going to allow a bunch of other stuff, like how much wealth can they spend? Are they going to have full plate at 8th level, right? Which is kind of on the border of when they should have full plate. And so then that brings in magic items. Like, what kind of magic items? And this is a real problem in 5th edition, because in previous editions, every magic item had an associated gold piece value. And so it made it real simple to say you can buy this much gold pieces worth of stuff, right? And then it's sort of self-sorted. It's like, if I wanted to spend all my gold pieces on this one really cool thing, that's great, and then I'm deficient elsewhere. That's where I can spread it around and be generous. But 5th edition's approach to magic items, the fact that it's not integral to character development, they don't assign a price to any of the magic items except for potions of healing. And they just sort of say, okay, magic items are so special that they don't have an assigned gold piece. You got to come up with something different than just setting a price to each one of them. And then they go on and have some convoluted rules about how to sell magic items, and you can like reverse it. If someone has this convoluted process to sell a magic item, then I should have a convoluted process on the other side to buy that magic item. So you can like reverse engineer prices that way, but it's hard and cumbersome. So what has happened often is, particularly early on, like if you look at like Adventure League's earlier attempts to address this, is they said, well, each magic item in 5th edition has a rarity, and they have common, uncommon, rare, very rare, and legendary. So we will use that as a bracketing system to define access. That turned out to be a terrible idea. In 5th edition, the rarity in no way reflects the utility. So in particular, there are 3 statistics that even with very few magic items, a PC can spike really high, right? One of those is armor class, right? So let's say you're like, okay, I'm gonna focus on armor class. So I'm gonna be a full plate wearer with a shield. That's armor class 20. I'm gonna take a defensive fighting style from one of my character classes. That's 21. So I'm 21 just out the gate with full plate. So it's gonna take probably 7th level to get full plate, but right there, I'm 21 out of the gate. you say, okay, so it's already hard. That's very hard for creatures in that bracket that you're going to put to hit that 21 AC. But then you say, okay, we'll be conservative. We'll just give him a +1 shield, 22. And we're going to have him find a way for +1 armor, 23. Oh, and Cloak of Protection is only uncommon, 24. Ring of Protection, same thing, 25. And then he's an Eldritch Knight, so he's got shield. He's at 30. And we'll go ahead and let the friendly spellcaster in the party drop a Shield of Faith on him, and he's at 32. So now he's only being hit on a 20, and if he has a way to impose disadvantage, he's never getting hit. So you don't even have to have the Shield of Faith. You can do that at 30. You're almost never getting hit, especially if you can impose disadvantage somehow. So armor class become problems, and we can follow that same process with to hit modifiers, attack rolls. Right? It's real easy. Well, I say real easy. If the DM is not careful with the magic items, you can be 9th level and only miss armor class 18 on a 1, right? +7 to hit +17 to hit every time, right? Or you can raise your spell DC to where it's like, okay, they've got to have a 20 to save. Like my spell DC, even if they're proficient in the saving throw, I've got my Rod of the Pack Keeper, which is +2 is rare. I've got, Ion Stones and maxed out my ability. And so the spell save DC can be, and then, the opponent never passes a spell save DC. So banishment, there you go. Hypnotic Pattern, everyone dies. So the takeaway then is that it is incumbent upon the players, including the DMs, maybe especially the DM, to limit the availability of those items that are going to blow up those 3 elements to the point where they break the game. They make it unfun, right? It's no longer a game of challenge. It's now just we're just sitting around talking, right? We're just there's no way that you can construct a reasonable opposition to the PCs at that point, without just doing heinous things, right? There are things you can do if you really want to, but then you have compounded a bad situation. You've taken the bad situation where the DM has failed to adequately constrain those elements that he should have, and said, okay, so as response to that, I'm going to start dumping these huge exploits like rampant damage absorption on the bad guys, making them immune to any condition, right? Giving them expertise in every skill. So all those you can do, right, as a reaction to make. But why not just constrain the as necessary at the beginning, which is a frank discussion, right? And you may have players push back on it. Players who are like, no, I want to have a 30 AC at 7th level. I can do that under the rules if you just cooperate a little bit, right? Just let me take my uncommon magic items and we'll all be good. And then the DM is going to say, yeah, that's going to break the game. That's not going to be fun. You don't want to do that, right? You don't want to have a game that's not fun. So that's the thing that came away from this week that I think would be most useful. That I don't think you're going to get in other channels. If you find it useful and interesting, please hit the like button. It does help these videos get seen by other people. You might even subscribe. That would be nice too. I always close with inviting people to engage with me on Discord, or Twitter, or Reddit, Facebook, however you happen to encounter me. Please reach out. I always enjoy a good discussion.